Hey, what's going on everyone? It's your boy, girlfriend's hair tie here, and I would highly suggest you get yourself some snackies and something to drink, because this is my 1 hour long analysis critique on Pokemon. And yes, I get 0 pussy.
Get nerd!
Pokemon is probably the gatekeeper of that little fuzzy nostalgic feeling we all get in our butts when we're reminded of our childhoods. Every time I see my boy Bulbasaur, I think back to the time that my mom had first brought Pokemon to me. It was her very first day at a new job, and I was crying and begging her to stay home. You know, I was probably a very poopy diapered young 17-year-old at that time. I tried my best to make her stay with my overwhelmingly convincing and articulate argument of, yes, but mother, did you perhaps take precautions as to the fact that if you did leave, I would be the big sad? Sorry, son, but I gotta chase this bag. And as I always told you growing up, only fake homies hate on the grind. What the fuck is going on? And so she left, and as I hid underneath a desk wiping my tears and snot, I dozed off and then woke up teleported to the couch, as you do. And as I awoke, my mom had arrived home, but not empty-handed, but with a Game Boy and Pokemon Yellow that she had found at her job site. Whichever kid was dumb enough to leave that shit, thanks to you, my childhood exists on theft. But that's the thing, each kid in every generation has a story like this. Pokemon holds memories for all of us. Our first starter, our first shiny, our first time falling for a dumbass lie that was told to you by some fucking kid named Kevin on the playground. At the time, it made perfect sense that if I just restarted my 900 hours of blood, sweat, and cum game file of Pokémon Fire Red, and then only got exactly 3 badges and then talked to this guy, I would get a ground on. It has to work. It has to. Kevin's fucking uncle works at Nintendo. Fuck you, Kevin. Pokemon from the jump was a phenomenon, and now has blasted off into being the most profitable brand ever. I'm talking bigger than Star Wars, bigger than Disney, bigger than Christ. That's right, parents.
Pokemon world is a world of the demonic. Your children need to know there's a devil, and he hates them, and he wants to ruin your life. Some of you can't go to heaven. Why?
And of course, with anything this popular, there comes heavy critiquing. In the Pokemon fandom, there's been this idea that these games have fallen off in quality, specifically in the 3D era. And I've seen countless videos discussing this, but one thing I never really see talked about much that I think is one of the most important parts of Pokemon that has fallen off in this era is the region design. Now maybe some of you might be thinking why the region of these games would even matter that much, because don't get me wrong, the gameplay loop of Pokemon is super important. But for me, the immersion of these games has always come from the whimsy of getting lost in each of these Pokemon worlds. It's so easy to get lost in these towns and routes. The Pokemon world is like this beautiful utopia where Pokemon and nature and technology and people all work together seamlessly and perfectly. But then there's always like some goofy villain who's like, "God, I hate this basically almost perfect world. I hate it. We have to reset it." So my goal with this video is to hopefully show you that the regions of these Pokemon games have fallen off. So first we're gonna go through gens 1 through 5, aka the Pixel era, where I think the region design was at its best, and then compare that to Gen 6 through 8, or what I like to call the 3D era. And as much as I wish I could just say, hey, this good, and this poo-poo, fuck you. This is YouTube, so I have to say that in the span of however long this fucking video is. What the fuck? But before we start, let's clarify what I find makes a great Pokemon region, because I think it's important to fully emphasize the first thing being the aesthetic. Each town should have a unique look or design to set it apart visually. The second thing is content. Basically something to do in the town that isn't just the gym. So that way you're not just going to a town, doing the gym, and leaving. It needs to have some sort of landmark or something you can interact with to keep you there longer to make it a more memorable town. And the third thing, lore. Something to give you the town's origins or culture to distinct it thematically. It could be as simple as NPCs screaming at you,
look around you, look at this. We created this. This didn't exist before we were here. Look around.
And of course you need great routes. I'm not going to assign anything specific like I did with the towns. I think an ideal route should have a unique aesthetic and or some robust level design, especially if we're in like a cave, for example, and or some content to interact with while you're in that route. Even this early on, Kanto was showing how immersive a Pokemon region can really be. Granted, the biggest flaw of this region is how it looks visually. Because these games were originally designed on an old-ass Game Boy and were held up by toothpaste and pubic hair, so they couldn't really go that crazy with the aesthetics. The routes are mostly just a dirt path with some grass patches and maybe a few ledges. The forests all look the same. This cave just looks like this cave, except this cave is dark. Like, as a kid, hearing the name Mount Moon, I'm expecting some purple galaxy space rock type shit, but no, just poopy browns. You had some variations with the bike path or that one ice cave, and there was some decent level design, especially towards the end of the game, but even in the first couple caves. And the towns also weren't that unique visually. The color palettes weren't that distinct from each other, and every town just kind of looked like a typical Pokemon town. And also all the towns except for like 2 didn't really have any lore. Most of the NPCs, instead of telling you about the culture of this town or telling you interesting tidbits about it, would rather scream tutorial nonsense at you. Like, I don't know where I'd be if I wasn't told that a revive can revive your Pokemon. Who would have fucking thought? But where Gen 1 shows its strengths is the content in each town and the structure of the region itself. Almost every town in this gen has a iconic landmark that gives you extra content to do outside of just the gym. Like in Saffron City, not only do you get to battle Team Rocket at their base, you also get to fight basically a whole other gym with the fighting dojo that also gives you a free Pokemon. Or in Vermilion, where you get to ride the SS Anne and fight a whole bunch of trainers and help the captain by giving him a rub on the back. Totally his back. Or my personal favorite, Cinnabar Island, where you can battle thieves and turn on switches on statues and read interesting lore from these research logs about the creation of Mewtwo. That shit is super cool. And of course, the iconic Lavender Town. It's one of the few towns that I think does distinct itself visually. To me, it has this like purple hue or look to it. You get lore about the town, the atmosphere is helped through the eerie ass music and the people being kinda creepy. And of course you have the Pokemon Tower, which gives you the culture of the town. It shows you that these people come here to give respect to the Pokemon that have passed away. But not only does the tower give you lore, it also gives you content through the many battles you can have in this tower. This to me is a gold standard for a town in Pokemon games. But outside of the towns and routes, you have the interconnection of Kanto, which is insane, especially for a game that was released in the year I was born. Like how after you gave some tea to the security guards, you realize that just to the left of Saffron is Celadon, and then right under that is Fuchsia, and then going all the way around, you get Vermilion and Lavender Town, which all link back to Saffron. And when you found out that Cinnabar Island, you know, the second to last gym, is literally in the backyard of your starting hometown, like, that is some Dark Souls Metroidvania type shit. So for the most part, Gen 1 struggles with its visuals in both the towns and routes and overall lore in each town, but ultimately makes up for that with its great region design and overall content within each town. Which to me is easily a top 3 region of all the series, and honestly could probably be number 1. Pretty much everything that was good about Kanto has drastically been stepped up in Johto. and everything that was bad has been fixed. Starting with the towns, almost every single one of them meets my requirements of a great town. Violet City, one of the first major cities of the game, already is showing how much of a step up Johto is from Kanto. Upon entering, you're already getting lore on the aesthetics of the town, and the mood of Violet City's aesthetics is much more unique than any of the things we saw in Kanto. The Bellsprout Tower gives you so much meaningful content and trainers to battle, while also simultaneously giving you lore on the tower, which also adds lore to Violet City. You have the Seaport Olivine City, which also has a unique aesthetic compared to other towns. And again, simultaneously, it gives you content through the Lighthouse, giving you trainers to battle, and you can even meet the gym leader before the gym and help her help a Ampharos, which also adds to the lore of the specific city. And my personal favorite town ever, Ecruteak City. First off, the aesthetics are amazing. It's this warm, beautiful, traditional looking city surrounded by these red and yellow trees. And the amount of meaningful shit to do in this town is ridiculous. And all this content that you can interact with in this city all adds to the lore of the city. You have the dance school, which adds to the culture of Ecruteak City itself, plus gives you content through one, stopping Team Rocket, and then later battling the Kimono Girls. And after beating the Kimono Girls, you get access to the Bell Tower, which outside looks fucking amazing, and it gives you content through its actually kinda difficult puzzling level design. I still be looking up YouTube videos to figure this shit out sometimes. And of course gives you more lore and content when you reach the very top and the Kimono Girls help summon Ho-Oh. And then you have the Burnt Tower, which gives you content through battling and exploration, and also gives you lore on the 3 legendary dogs that once saved the city and perished. This is the gold standard for a Pokemon town. There's so much shit to do, there's so much lore and culture, and it looks mwah! And the routes have improved a lot as well. You can tell this is where they really started to try to fill each route with something extra to do in it besides just walk through it till you get to your next destination. The spooky and mysterious Ruins of Elf, which you get to talk to researchers about, and they tell you all this cool lore about it. And it has some puzzles you can solve, and even multiple entrances. Route 39 adds content through the Moo Farm, which also gives it a unique aesthetic because, well, it's a farm. It's this cozy, homey little place that also gives you content through helping a Miltank regain its strength. The fucking Lake of Rage, where you get to catch a shiny Gyarados. Like, come on! And all the forests and caves and routes have gotten a lot more complex with their level design. The only flaw I have with the routes is that the routes themselves, the forests, and the caves haven't exactly had a drastic rise in their visuals. There are a couple things that are used to differentiate them, but for the most part, they just kind of look like your standard forest, your standard cave, and your standard route, you know, grass, ledges, water. Pretty typical. But I'm convinced that Johto also has the best region design of any generation. Just look at this shit. Just look at this. Okay, so starting from Violet City, you have 2 paths you can go down. You have this left path, which you can't go through because there's something blocking your way. But then if you go down, you go through this cave, you exit it, you reach this rainy route, then you meet with Team Rocket at the Slowpoke Well, then you can beat the second gym, and then from the second gym you go to this forest, and then from this forest you reach this whole other route that takes you to the 3rd gym. Once you're done here, you can go up to Route 36. You water the Sudowoodo and get past him, and then you realize you're all the way back to that one left area that you couldn't go through when you were at Violet City. What the fuck? Or even some crazier shit with the Dark Cave. When you first reach the cave, you can only go through a small portion of it. One, because it's dark as shit, but also you don't have the required HMs to get all the way through it. But then you go through the whole game, beating every single gym until you beat the final gym leader. Then you find what you think is another cave altogether. But then you realize as you go through it, you're linked back to this cave. It's all one. From the beginning of the game, this dark cave was here, and it linked all the way to the end of the game. Like, that is fucking crazy. And you might be wondering, yeah, that's cool, but why would I want to be here? And you find out when you go all the way back to your hometown, and you're like, notice, oh, there's some water here, and I do have surf now. Why don't I, surf that shit? And then you realize that Kanto, a whole other region, is literally in the backyard of your hometown. That is insane. I would say that to date, out of all the generations, Gen 3 has probably the most aesthetically pleasing region out of all of them. That's mainly because Hoenn is a tropical setting, allowing for a lot more diverse and unique towns and routes. You have Slateport, which aesthetically is this breezy little port town with a beach right next to it and all these little tourist shops. Talk to some of the NPCs, which will fill you in on why the town is the way it is. It gives you context as to why this town has all these little tourist shops, because the exchange market blew up here. Specifically because in this area, the water and the harvest were much more bountiful and clean. And it gives you content with things like this whole little beach section full of trainers to battle. You have Satopolis City, which gets its aesthetic from the fact that it's literally chilling on the lip of a volcano. You get lore and context for this because the NPCs tell you that it came from an underwater erupting volcano. And of course you get content from having to stop the legendaries from destroying the world here. And even the towns that might not have a lot of extra content make up for that with so much interesting lore and design. Verdanturf, for example, is this relaxing, wind-swept, grassy plain town. In this town, we're told that the wind blows in a specific way that makes it so no volcanic ash is in the air, which makes this town a much more healthy and clean place to live. Also adds context as to why Wally's family moved here, because Wally was a sickly boy and living here helped him feel better. Fucking Fall Tree City was like my childhood wet dream. It is a city made of tree houses. That is like straight out of a kid's book. That unique of an aesthetic alone makes up for the fact that there's not much to do in it, but it also has some lore. It adds to this constant theme in Hoenn that the people are trying to constantly live with nature and Pokemon in harmony. They literally live in the forest. They didn't cut the trees and then make houses. No, they made houses within the trees. The people and nature are living as one. And sure, this has its drawbacks. Like, for example, we're told that some people actually see Pokemon literally fly through their windows at night. And Gen 3 also has some of the most unique routes in the whole series. Obviously, the routes aesthetically are a lot more diverse, but also the amount of content and shit to do in the routes has been increased. The one that comes to mind immediately is Route 113. It's a typical looking route, but because of it being so close to a volcano, it is covered in ash and is snowing ash. Apart from looking amazing, this also allows you to pick up ash and bring it to this dude and actually buy items with it. Or how about Route 111? It's a typical looking route at first, which connects to Mauville City and has the Windstrait family to give you some content, but then it slowly leads you in to a fucking desert, which alone sells me because I specifically love a desert aesthetic. But then it also gives you the Mirage Tower, a fading in and out castle. Or how about Route 119, which is basically a rainforest. The grass here is overgrown and completely covers your character. Most of the route has a heavy rain and gives you content through the Weather Institute. And it all beautifully and seamlessly leads into Fortree City. Hoenn completely capitalizes on the fact that it is a tropical setting, both thematically through the people and the nature living together and shit, and also through the diversity of its aesthetics. I don't think there's a single region with this many diverse looking biomes and routes all throughout the region. The level design and region design overall is still pretty good. It's not as crazy or insane as Johto's. There's still that whole linking you back to a certain area you've been before. Like how, for example, when you get to Verdanturf, you take the Rust Turf Tunnel and it links you back to Rustboro. And so far, this region easily has the most unique caves. Meteor Falls has this purplish gray hue and waterfalls, and there's even meteor craters around the cave and even ones before the cave. And it even has some deep level design. You can go quite deep into this cave and find rare items and rare Pokemon. And the ones that don't look drastically unique, such as Shoal Cave, make up for that with its mechanic. This cave actually has two different looks depending on the time of day. At certain times it's high tide, where the water is much more higher, while at other times it's low tide, where the water is completely drained out. Which leads me to a bit of a flaw with this region, and that of course is the water routes. You see, the Hoenn region is actually cut exactly in half in land routes and water routes. which is cool thematically. But god, these water routes are fucking flaccid. I mean, granted, you have a few things you can interact with, like the abandoned ship, which is pretty cool and has a cool ass tune. But for the most part, it's just fields of endless blue with nothing to do in them. Which is such a shame, considering you actually get lore saying that ships that aren't doing too well anymore, that people will just let them sink so that Pokemon have more environments to live in. Which is cool, but we don't see that anywhere. But despite this flaw, I think this region is unique enough to diverse itself and improve on the other ones in various ways. Overall, 69 out of 69, too much water. Obviously is not as aesthetically diverse as Hoenn, but I think has some of the most unique region design out there. You have towns as early as Orgberg City, which gets its aesthetic. You have towns as early as Orgberg City, which gets its aesthetic. You have towns as early as Orgberg City, which gets its aesthetic. Orgberg City, which gets its aesthetic. Fuck! Early as Orgberg City, which gets its
Who am I?
I'll use my trusty frying pan as a drying pan.
You have towns as early as Orgberg City, which gets its aesthetic from the fact that it's surrounded by a mountain, which also adds to the context as to why it's a mining town, which also gives context as to why it has a museum to show off the many things they find while mining. You even get some content because you can go into the mine, battle some miners, and even meet the gym leader ahead of time. There's these cool little mini mine carts on conveyor belts going throughout the cave. There's even these little air vents to make sure that the workers, while they're in the cave down under, are still getting fresh air from the outside. You of course have the beautiful, enchanting, whimsical Floroma Town, and you get some cool lore when you find out that before, no flowers could grow on this town. But after somebody gave a prayer of gratitude and wished for a bountiful blessing, the town bloomed with flowers and began to flourish. You're literally given the entire backstory of how a town was originated. Pastoria City gives you content through, of course, the Great Marsh. But what's crazy is, not only does the Great Marsh give you content, it also gives you lore, context, and culture about the whole town. You see, the Great Marsh was always here, even before the town came to be. Instead of getting rid of it, they made it the main attraction and kind of the heart of the city, with Krogunk as their mascot. You get the Safari Zone, which lets the people of Pastoria City monetize the Great Marsh. You get this cool little cardboard cutout adding to the brand of the Great Marsh. And now Pastoria is famous for the Great Marsh. These are the type of things I'm talking about when a town in a Pokemon game should have culture. Pastoria City has culture because of the Great Marsh. If you tell somebody, oh yeah, I live in Pastoria, then they're gonna ask you, oh, that place with the Great Marsh? And that's because Pastoria City was fully fleshed out. It really feels like a real place with real culture. Yo, is that why you smell so bad? And though these towns aren't as aesthetically unique as Hoenn, they all have lore and or content to make these towns feel meaningful. I would say almost the exact same thing about the routes as well. The first thing that makes Sinnoh unique to other regions is Mount Coronet. Now sure, its aesthetic is as basic as any typical Pokemon cave can be, but on top of having great level design full of puzzles and various ways to exit the cave and find an item, or exit the cave so you can climb higher, and as you climb higher, more and more snow covers your path. But it also connects, and check this shit out, Orgberg City, Eterna City, Hardhome City, Celestic Town, and Snow Point. It's basically the entire spine or skeletal structure of the region itself. It even does something that I don't think any other cave or mountain has done before, because Mount Coronet also connects to the lore and culture of the region itself. It connects to the Creation Trio lore, which also connects to like the whole plan of Team Galactic. And even in the church in Hardhome City, they have this mural to show appreciation to Mount Coronet. And again, they're trying new things with these routes. For example, I love how this early route looks like it's just going to be a typical route, but then has these colorful flowers start coming in that eventually, of course, lead you to Floroma City. perfectly transitioned. You have one of the best forests in all the series with Eterna Forest. It's got this calm, almost enchanting atmosphere with these beautiful ass clouds just floating over it, and you even get helped with another trainer going through it with you. And it even gives you extra content by letting you explore the thick atmosphere of the spooky old chateau. You got routes in the middle of a blizzard blanketed in snow, making that slow ass engine of these games go even slower to the point where you want to kill yourself. You got the marshes, you got that one lake that dries up and you see all the Magikarp flopping around. You got that one route that has that whole like rich aristocratic section, and the level design just keeps improving. For fuck's sake, look at the distortion world. You know how fucking hype it was for a Pokemon fan that your character can go like upside down and topsy and turny and left and right. Giratina flies around every now and then, and there's even like an upside down waterfall. And now we've reached the final region of the Pixel era, Unova. Unova? I don't fucking know. Before I get into the actual region, I just want to say how fucking beautiful this game is. At this point, Game Freak had pretty much mastered the pixel art aesthetic, and it's only helped by the fact that there's changing seasons. This is easily one of my favorite mechanics ever. It makes it so every town and route each get a distinct variation on its aesthetics. You got the fall season, you got the spring season with the fucking cherry blossoms, you got the winter with the cold, you got the summer. It's fucking amazing. But of course, let us talk about the towns. The only flaw I really see with this region is that it's a lot more linear than all the other regions before it, but I think it completely makes up for that with the fact that pretty much every town and every route has content, lore, and looks unique. You can see this even in some of the earliest cities. For example, Striaton City. It has this more fancy, classic, big city kind of aesthetic, which is only helped by the fact that the gym is a fancy restaurant. You can go to the Dream Yard and battle extra trainers and even get to know more about Team Plasma. You have Nocturne City, which gives you this old homey feel and has this rustic brown color to it. It gives you culture and lore through these old train tracks. They used to be used to deliver cargo to all these warehouses. But later on, the warehouses were completely abandoned and then transformed and taken over by artists. All the young Cal art students took over these warehouses and made them into studios so they can hone their passion of making furry porn to pay rent. And for content outside of the gym, you got the museum, but if that's not enough, it also gives you interaction with Team Plasma. You of course have Castelia City with these gargantuan skyscrapers that just pierce the clouds. It's a huge metropolis. But here's the important thing. Despite it being such a huge city, it's not hollow. It's full of content and culture. One part of the city is basically the business section. There's a bunch of people just running past you, rushing to get to their jobs. You can enter almost every building, and some of them actually give you content, like for example the battle company giving you trainers to battle. Around the town you can find these dancers just kind of showing off their moves, but you can also battle them too. And just like in a real city, you can find yourself in like a dark, kind of sketchy alleyway with some shady people, where you also find this hidden cafe, kind of like in real life when you find a hole-in-the-wall kind of restaurant. You have this other part of the city, which I would say is more of the artsy section. You got this museum where all the artists can show off their hard work. And it's no surprise that the gym leader, who's also an artist, hosts his gym here. You have Nimbasa, which is all about leisure and entertainment, which adds a lot of context to the great aesthetic of Nimbasa. Because it's a city about leisure and entertainment, of course it looks like a fun-ass amusement park. You got the Ferris wheel where you can have a very intimate conversation with N. The sexual tension here is fucking ridiculous. And various sports arenas where you can battle specific athletes of that sport. You can battle basketball players, you can battle baseball players, you can battle football players. There is so much fucking content, and it all adds to the culture and lore of this town being all about leisure and entertainment. You got the beautiful Icarus City. In the winter, the water is frozen over and everything is covered in snow. But in the summer, the ice is melted, leaving you a giant pool of water, and the windmill is finally moving. You get a completely unique aesthetic, and again you get content with the Dragon Spiral Tower, which also gives you lore about the town. And probably my favorite town in all of the series, the Village Bridge. One of the things that makes Unova unique as a region is the fact that it has so many bridges. So it's really cool that one of these bridges is actually a place where people live. You get some really cool culture and lore about this town. You hear that the people of this town used to live down under, but after a flood came and washed away their homes, they rebuilt on the bridge to prevent something like this from happening again. This place and the people in it feel so relaxing and friendly, to the point where there's no Pokemon Center. If you want to heal, just talk to the people of the town. They'll gladly help you. And of course, the best part of this town completely is the music, which is also completely made by the people living here. You talk to the guitar guy so you can add his little guitar strings to the tune. You talk to this guy and he adds a funky little fucking beatbox thing to the tune. You talk to the Zelda fan and he fucking pulls out his grass flute and starts playing that shit. And then finally you talk to the Holy Spirit. This fucking guy. And he adds this beautiful, kinda gibberish singing that just adds so much tranquility to the music. I hope I've made it pretty clear that by the end of the Pixel era, these towns have just gotten better and better. The aesthetics constantly improved, or at least gave you something new to work with. In the first gen, barely any NPC told you anything interesting about the towns. But with each subsequent generation, it really felt like every town tried to have some sort of lore or some sort of culture. And with each gen, it really feels like they just keep trying to add more content to the town, so you're not just going to a town, beating a gym, and moving on and never remembering that town. By the time you reach Gen 5, almost every town has something unique and meaningful to do in it. Sometimes you think the town's just some peaceful little place, then you walk into a house and you get fucking sneaked on by—
You picked the wrong house, fool!
I'm joking. And the routes continue to grow as well, adding more content, better level design, and unique aesthetics. Unova's routes, caves, and forests probably have some of the most complex level design that we've seen up until now. I think of places like Twist Mountain with so many different ways to go and trainers to battle and items to find. I think of the blue, electrifying Charged Stone Cave, which probably not only aesthetically is the most unique looking cave in all of the series, but also actually has some decently complex level design. There's some that are so memorable strictly off the aesthetics. I think of that one forest earlier in the game where you got trainers jumping out of bushes and logs that you can actually enter through. You got the obviously Hoenn influenced Sandstorm route with its own relic castle. And a lot of these routes have such cool mechanics, like for example how they added a nurse to some of them, where if you beat the nurse in a battle, you can always come back to them to heal your Pokemon, so you don't have to run all the way back to the town to heal them in a Pokemon Center. One route that I'll never forget because it's so fucking memorable and unique is the route that has this trailer in it. Before you go in, you talk to this dude who starts talking about the woman who lives in there and how she likes being stationary while he likes to travel. It's so cool because basically in the middle of a fucking route in a Pokemon region, you're just seeing a breakup basically happen, a mature breakup between two people who just realize that they have two different ideals for their lives. You got routes which are raised by these wooden walkways that also contain the fucking Celestial Tower in it. By the end of the Pixel era, we're pretty much getting everything I could ask for in a region. But of course, much like these games, we have to move on to the 3D era. I'm going to preface, I'm going to be a lot more negative on the 3D era. So of course, if you're someone who maybe started the Pokemon series or grew up with it in this era, please don't take too much offense from anything I'm going to say. I'm just another dumbass talking shit on the internet, okay? I think we've reached a point in the internet where we can accept the fact that I can have my opinion, you can have yours, and instead of getting all insulty and mad in the comments, we could just have a cool, like, chill general discussion. But with that being said, let us move on to the Kalos region. Now, though I will say the downfall of the Pokemon regions definitely does start here with Kalos, but because it is the very start of the downfall, I think there's actually still quite a lot to like and appreciate about this region that I don't see a lot of people talk about. So real quick, before we get into the downfall, let me actually talk about some of the things I really like about this region. One of the things I think the Kalos region handles beautifully is the routes. Almost every route looks aesthetically unique and pleasing, thus making them super memorable, but also they all tend to have some sort of extra content to work with. For example, you got this swampy marsh route. It looks cool, there's plenty of little pitfalls you can fall into, and there's even like a little haunted house. Granted, it's just kind of a guy who tells you a lame-ass story, but it is content nonetheless, and I can't say I don't remember this route. You got this beautiful, straight, narrow walkway route, which leads you to this rich-ass mansion where you can help this dude catch his furfrou and see some fireworks. You got that one route with this poles that you can grind down on with your skates. You got this desert route where Pokemon will actually sneak up on you from underground, and that gives you content through this building where you can interact with Team Flare. One of my all-time favorite routes is this beautiful autumn leaves route. It's got trainers actually hiding out in the piles of leaves that actually jump out to battle you, and it seamlessly and smoothly leads into these like rustic ruins. And besides just looking cool and giving you content through, if you go underground, there's like a whole lost hotel, but it also adds context and lore to the whole region because we know that in the past Kalos had a huge war. So these ruins that we're going through could be ruins from that war. I don't think anybody doesn't remember the beautiful glittering cave. Like, yeah, sure, it's mostly a straight line, but because of the dynamic camera angle they put, it's really easy actually to get kind of lost and topsy-turvy in this cave. And who could forget about Reflection Cave? On top of having a very unique and distinct design, it also lets trainers battle you by seeing you through the reflection of the cave. There's even routes where you can actually ride Pokemon through them. You got the Adorbs little Skiddo that you can ride on this farm. You got the Rhyhorn that you can ride through these jagged rocks. And you got this Mamoswine that you can ride with through the snow and the blizzard. But again, unfortunately, this is the beginning of the downfall of the region design, so let us talk about the cracks that begin to form here. The amount of actual shit to do or content and the lore or culture of the towns really started to get just taken away. When before this, it felt like they were on an upward trajectory, constantly trying to add more content to the towns and more culture to them. Honestly, I think it's no surprise that a lot of the towns from Gen 6 through 8 are just not that memorable. Now, this doesn't go for all towns of the Kalos region. There are a few exceptions. For example, you got Shalor City that has the big Mega Evolution Tower giving you a little bit of lore and a lot of content to work with. Laveer City is probably one of the most beautiful Pokemon towns in the whole series. The colors are just so warm and inviting. It's such a memorable looking place. But on top of that, you have the gym that's this giant dollhouse, and you even have the Pokeball factory. It doesn't really have a lot of lore connected to the town, but that's okay. It's got content. It's got a nice aesthetic. It's fine. And of course you have Lumiose City being this huge fashion metropolis full of shit to do. There's so many different places to go and child labor to participate in and clothes to buy. Well, except for that one really fancy shop where you can only get in once you get enough clout tokens. Overall, I'd say Lumiose, despite being such a big city, actually has a lot of shit to do in it. Much like Castelia City from Unova before it. But besides those, most of these towns don't have much content or lore at all. Look at a place like Campfire Town. This town feels so hollow. One, it's visually boring. Two, none of the people in the town tell you anything interesting about the town or why they live there. There's no culture or lore behind it. And I thought maybe it'll save it with the content because there's this like castle thing. But once you enter, they just tell you some really lame lore about like, there was stuff here, but now it's gone, and it's just this empty castle with nothing to do in it. It really feels like this town was kind of rushed, like this castle was supposed to have stuff, but they couldn't put it in time, so they just emptied it out and just put that line of dialogue as like a little band-aid. Honestly, the only thing I can really give praise to a lot of these towns is that they're very pretty or visually pleasing to look at. But most of them don't really have any content outside of the gym or any lore or culture. No one's sitting there telling me, oh, this town came to be from this, or I live here specifically because the nature is different here, or the air. The city with the most glaring and obvious flaw of this is Anastar City, because visually it's so unique and interesting. It has this giant landmark of this huge sundial, and there's even some cool visual storytelling. For example, some of the houses in this town actually have solar panels, which makes perfect sense in a town that's built with this huge sundial. It got my hopes up, and I thought when I go around and talk to everybody, I'd get some lore or culture about this town and how differently they live because of the sundial. And maybe I missed something, but literally nobody says anything, like anything about the sundial. They just keep telling me random shit I don't care about. Like tell me, why do you live with this sundial? How is your life differently? How do you approach things different? Like, this was always been done. It's just a pretty city that's hollow. There's nothing meaningful about it. So for the Kalos region, I'd say that the routes are still great, and you do have some towns that give you lore and content, but for the most part, it's pretty clear to see that this is the beginning of a trend where the towns don't have anything to do in them or don't have any interesting lore and are just becoming less and less memorable. And unfortunately, this only gets worse when you go into Alola. And here's the crazy thing about Alola as a region. It probably has the least amount of towns and probably routes of any region before it. Oh, I got a call from my mom. Hold up. Hello. Yeah, shy. Yeah. So you would think because there's so little of them that they'd be full of content, full of lore, and, just be fully fleshed out. Because you know the saying, fucking quality over quantity, right? But no. The routes are even less complex, they're way more simplistic, and they're not even visually pleasing anymore. Which is crazy because, much like Hoenn, Alola is a tropical region. It's based off the tropical place, fucking Hawaii. But yet, all the routes aren't that visually distinct or unique. Most of the routes in Alola are just a dirt road with some grassy patches and maybe some water on the side. Overall, Alola routes are a lot less unique visually, with little to nothing to do in them, sometimes literally just being a straight path. To me, these are some of the most forgettable, boring routes we've seen yet. There's only a few aesthetically unique routes that I can actually remember. You have both the meadows, which admittedly look amazing, but are just, again, kind of just straight paths. That one route that's near a volcano and gets you closer and closer to the volcano until you're spiraling all the way to the top of it is great. That one route made completely of ruins, which is really nice, and it's also where you get the ability to be caressed by the gentle, manly Pokemon hands of Machamp. But majority of Alola routes are just pretty typical looking, and even these good ones don't come close to, again, the other tropical region of Hoenn. You had your rainforest routes, or like this fucking route with near a volcano and there's fucking volcanic ash snowing. You get nothing to that level here. This is what I want to see when you have a tropical region. So why do so many of these ones in Alola bleed into one another? Alola is full of just Pokemon grass route type beat or Pokemon mountain cave route type beat. And something that Hoenn and Unova fixed with, making caves a lot more aesthetically unique is ruined by Alola because we're just back to your typical poopy brown caves. The gen before this, which is not based off a tropical region, has more memorable and distinctly visually unique routes than Alola does. Now overall, Alola as a region itself does have some culture behind it, of course. You got the myths and legends of like the Ultra Beasts or the Guardians that protect the region, or the nature of the people, that they're all so peaceful. You get a cool little tidbit from the police officer basically telling you that he doesn't really have much to do with his job because the people of Alola are so peaceful, and if you do something bad, the fucking Guardians will fucking strike you down and eat your asshole. And another thing, which ultimately I think is a flaw, is that Alola was created by people from different regions. namely Kanto and Johto. And since we already dissected the routes, let's look at the towns. Most of them are these big, visually pleasing to look at areas, but with nothing to little to do in them. For the most part, mostly all the towns barely have any lore or any content. You got places like Heya, which, talking to everybody, the only lore I could get about it or culture was that it was made by people from Kanto and Johto, which, I mean, looking at it, you can't really tell. And I thought maybe it'll have some cool content with this big ass hotel in the middle. I was expecting to go inside it and, you know, have a battle with like various people as I go up and up the different floors. But no, it's literally just a single room. And you could just talk to a few people. You know, there's no trainers to battle. There's no like interesting lore about this area at all. Or look at Koni. It's a really pretty Japanese-inspired town with various shops, probably great for tourists. But lore, culture, nobody tells you anything of interest about this town, and there's literally nothing to do in it. But what makes it really tweeze my pubic hairs is how it tricks you into thinking that you might get some content in this town. With this pirate ship here, and then this lighthouse here. From the outside, it seems like you can, you know, go into these places and interact with maybe some trainers that you'll get to battle. There's even a secret passage to get to the area in front of the lighthouse. But you can't go inside either of them. In past gens, I can guarantee you both this pirate ship and this lighthouse would have been accessible and had trainers to battle and even some lore about these specific places and how they relate to the town itself. But not here. It almost feels like there was supposed to be content, especially with the lighthouse, but maybe they were rushing and didn't have enough time. And the towns that actually do have, you know, unique aesthetics or some sort of content or lore or anything of meaningful value tend to be the smallest with least amount of development time on them. Look at Painolia Town. It's this cool western cowboy town, and it has this lore about how it was built by people and Pokemon working together, and that's kind of its whole culture. People and Pokemon that live and work together. And this culture is emphasized by, if you go into this house, you meet this lady who just lives with a bunch of shadow clones of Magmar. It's giving you context of that idea of Pokemon and people living together. But here's the thing. That's the only house you can go inside. This town that actually has some culture and content and unique aesthetic to it that's actually kind of cool and interesting is a single building. That's it. You got Tapu Village, which I think is one of the coolest towns lore-wise, because it tells the story about how they tried to build a store here, and then the Tapus, because this was a sacred ground, fucking destroyed it. And now all that's left is ruins and the abandoned store, which has basically become a habitat for ghost-type Pokemon. But as great as it is, again, this town is very small in content. Or look at Po Town, which easily is the best town yet. For one, it's the town of Team Skull, which are easily some of the best evil team Pokemon has ever seen. Pokemon's always had this problem with them trying to make these serious evil team, but then like Team Rocket, they're supposed to be evil and all serious and shit, but then they like, whoops, I dropped the key that'll let you take it and unlock the door that I'm trying to bodyguard. Oh no! But with Team Skull, it works because they're not made to be the serious evil team. They're just some fucking silly, goofy hooligans who are only doing this because they themselves failed the island challenge. They actually have a little bit of humanity. Like, you give a shit a little bit about them. I loved this dude who's just telling me that he has a problem with his low self-esteem. Like, damn, bruh, chill out. He'll be alright. Here, take these shoes with the heart on them. That'll fill the void. It's covered in graffiti and everything is thrown around, and it just kind of became a cool hangout spot for Team Skull. So I couldn't wait to go in and talk to some of the Team Skull members and hear interesting things about them. And there is content here. You can go into the mansion and battle a bunch of Team Skull members and then Guzma at the end. And you get some cool lore and context about Team Skull as they tell you about how they feel they've wasted their youth. But again, this whole town is a Pokemon Center and a mansion. It's just two buildings. And again, don't get me wrong, yeah, I did get some lore and I did get some content, but it really just feels like this is only scratching the surface of what they could have done. The potential of a Team Skull town could be way more than just this. Honestly, the only town that I feel feels like a fully fleshed out and great Pokemon town is Mali City. Also, I'm really sorry if I mispronounced some shit. This town is pleasing to look at. It has some cool content to work with that whole Mali Garden thing. And you get some lore about it through being told that it was built by people from Johto, which explains the big, obvious Johto-looking tower. Here's my problem with that whole, oh, this region was built by people from other regions thing. It doesn't let Alola have its own identity, which it's struggling already to have. Is this town visually pleasing? Yes. But it doesn't remind me of Alola. When I look at this, I don't think Alola, I think Johto. And honestly, compared to Johto towns, this isn't even that good at being that. Johto towns have way more culture and content than Mali City has. Whenever I see this city, all I can think is that it's just a Johto leftover. In all honesty, Alola as a region isn't that memorable to me. The routes don't have that complex of level design or anything visually aesthetically distinct. They're not memorable. The towns barely have anything to do with them or any lore that's interesting about them to give them their own identity. They're also not very memorable. And again, of course, there's some exceptions, but that's the thing. They're exceptions. Meanwhile, back in Gens 5 through 1, it was the opposite. Most of the towns had unique lore or unique content. And now Gen 6 and onward, the exception is that they have content, lore, and are fully fleshed out as a town and are memorable. Like, I'm here at this waterlogged town that's obviously influenced by Pacific Log Town from Gen 3, but the culture and the lore here is nowhere near as interesting as the culture and lore of Pacific Log Town. In that place, you had NPCs that believed so many different myths and legends about, the Hoenn region itself. It really feels like the culture of these regions is just getting less and less. Video like essays or like analysis on video games is kind of funny. Like, I'm here making however fucking long this video is, just talking about an imaginary town in a children's game made of fucking pixels, fucking going on and on about like, oh, this doesn't have as much culture as the previous imaginary town made of pixels. Oh god, if you're still watching, just please comment that you love me or something, just so I know that this dumb shit I'm doing actually has a purpose or something. With Gens 6 through 7, though they definitely were a downfall from Gens 5 through 1 in region design, I felt like they still had something to grasp, even if it's a little. They still had something you could point to and be like, no, I like this region, it has this, it has that. But with the Galar region, I honestly feel we've hit rock bottom. The Galar region is... And before I do, I know that before this there was so much videos made and talk about how the people behind Game Freak weren't, they're lazy, they're not doing all this or whatever. So I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that, oh, the developers are lazy and they don't care about this series, they're just trying to make money and they don't care, Because truthfully, I don't fucking know that. I don't know who they are. So I'm not going to waste your time telling you things I don't know about these people. And if anything, I honestly believe that the developers at least do care about these games. The reason they're getting worse could be anything. It could be, greedy publishers or time constraints. The truth is, we don't fucking know. So I'm only going to talk about the things that are here and that I can actually see and talk about. From pretty much the first trailer, the region of this game had me just worried. Because when they revealed it, it kinda just looked like a straight line. And there was people saying, and I was hoping that, it wasn't gonna just be that. There was gonna be little different areas you could go to and whatnot. No. No. Yeah, no, this is literally a straight path. That's it. Let us start with the towns of this region, which are probably some of the worst towns in any Pokemon game yet. One of the first major cities in Galar is Motostoke. It's this big, grand, steam-powered city, and it looks pretty nice. But there's fuck all to do in it, and there's no culture or lore whatsoever. Outside of the gym, there's no interesting landmarks to like interact with. There's that hotel where you can battle Team Yell, I guess. All that's here is a few shops, a salon that's just copy pasted from every other salon in every other city, and a clothing shop which is also copy and pasted from every other city. There's no unique content to work with, and there's fuck all of culture and lore about this town. I have talked to every NPC. They tell me nothing interesting about this town or why they live here. Like, how did this town came to be? You know, what's the origin? Or why did they use steam specifically? I don't fucking know. Nobody tells me anything about it. This town is just a nice looking big town. That's it. Even some of the smaller towns have this problem, like Holbury or Holberry, I don't fucking know. It's a decent looking port town, I'll give it that. But again, there is nothing interesting to do in it, and there's no lore behind it. Like, no one's telling me anything interesting about it. And it's even worse because it fucking tricks you. You think you might just get some lore and content through this, like, obviously lighthouse tower thing, right? But then you go to it, and you can't even go inside. I was thinking that maybe I'd go inside, maybe I'd battle a few trainers, and then I'd meet the gym leader, and then she'd tell me some shit. But no, you can't enter it, despite there's literally a dude right there taunting me. Like, how come he can go there? How come I can't? Again, decent to nice looking town. Nothing to do in it, and no culture about it whatsoever. Hammerlock gives you some lore, if any, which is just telling you that, you know, it was built in ancient times, which is why it has like this castle theme. And I'm sorry, I'm not giving you a point for lore, because that is the bare minimum, literally the bare minimum of lore. Especially when the town is this big, like that's all you're gonna give me? No, I'm not giving you a point for lore on that. But again, nothing to do here. It's just another big ass town. There is literally nothing unique to do here that you couldn't do in Motostoke or Holberry. They're just different fucking aesthetics. That's it. Balloonlea is one of the most unique and distinctly beautiful looking towns we've seen yet. The plant life is overgrown. There's these giant mushrooms, and Pokemon are chilling on a couple of the houses. And when I say couple, oh, I mean fucking couple, because there's only two. This whole town, which looks great, sure, is a Pokemon Center, 2 houses, and a gym. That's fucking it. And there's no fucking lore. There's nothing to do outside of the gym. This is a Switch game, everybody. And honestly, the biggest offender of this is the biggest town of the region, Winden. It's this grand, gorgeous looking city. But again, it's empty. There is nothing to do here except the gym. There's a grand, huge hotel. Nothing to do. It's one fucking room. There's a battle tower. It's post-game, and it's not even a good version of the battle tower. It's been done better before. There's no content to interact with here. Again, all you get are the salons, a couple shops, and the clothing place, which is literally in every other town. There's literally no difference except for the type of shit they sell. Even some of the houses you can enter, and there is quite a few you can enter this time, are literally just copied and pasted with different NPCs just kind of moved around. And it has that same problem with Holberry where it tricks you. Like, look at this amazing camera angle. It lets you look at this huge Ferris wheel. Wow, isn't that pretty? Don't you wish you could, like, I don't know, go to it? Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Nah, cause you know what I love more than having intimate, sexually charged conversations on Ferris wheels with green-haired PETA leaders? Just looking at them. Yep, that's all I like. I like to just look at the Ferris wheel. Why would I want to go on it? No, I just like looking at it. That's all I fucking need. Fuck content. Like, why would they not let you go to this? It really feels rushed. And again, There's no culture or lore. There's nothing interesting about this town. You talk to everybody, they'll tell you nothing about this town. And it's upsetting because, I mean, look at Lumio City in Gen 6, or even before that, Gen 5's Castelia City. These are also the big city, and they're smaller than this big city, yet there's more depth and content and lore in both of these cities than this city at all. Shit, honestly, there's more content in this, in fucking Ekritique City, a town from Gen 2, which is super small, but it has 3 times the content to do and 3 times the history and culture and lore than fucking Winden. And you remember that problem I had with Po Town from Alola, where it was cool, it had a cool look, had some nice lore, had some, you know, it just needed more. It just needed more content. Well, here you hit rock fucking bottom, because not only are you have a town with fucking Team Yellow that I don't give a single shit about, the town, if you can call it that, is literally a hallway with a Pokemon Center and a gym, and the gym isn't even a building. What? The towns of Pokemon as a region have become nothing but huge, pretty to look at, but hollow husks of cities and towns. And I can't say much better for the routes either. There's very few that stand out to me. Route 4 is pretty cool. It has some like cool yellow aged grass and these cool like historic ancient stones. And you get that shot of that cool like kind of crop circle-ish kind of thing with the whole alien thing here, which gives you some cool lore and shit about, you know, the region itself. Glimwood Tangle is a very unique looking forest that you can interact with some of the Pokemon and even mess with like the lighting of the forest itself. Route 6 is this cool little canyon that has like this backdrop of a Mount Rushmore of Diglets, which is awesome, and has these ladders that are stand users. And now that the routes actually have Pokemon right there to actually see and interact with, it lets them do some cool, unique things in each route. I really like this rocky kind of looking route with these ladders. And what makes it extra cool is that it has the Pokemon Phalanx just kind of like coming in and out of different entrances and exits across the whole route. But for the most part, I am very underwhelmed by these routes. Like, I can't help but feel like something is wrong when I enter Galar Mine, and sure, it looks kind of nice. There's like, it's really cool how they added the car bank kind of going through the railroad. That's pretty cool. But then, aside from like a couple turns you could take to get some items, the cave itself is literally a straight path. That's it. There is more complexity and level design in Gen 1 caves than there is here. And you wouldn't believe my disappointment when I go to another cave and it's just fucking Galar Mine fucking 2. It's basically the same cave. It's still a straight path with a color swap. The only thing I like about it is the Stunfisk that, you know, pretend to be Pokeballs and then they snap at you. There's no interesting level design. There's nothing to do in them. Again, they're just straight paths. There's no points of interest to stop at or like a tower to go to and battle some trainers. Like in Gen 5, there was a whole ass route that had a fucking like big ass tower in it, and unfortunately it's only worse with the wild area. And don't get me wrong, yeah, this is quite the big step up for Pokemon in general, but it feels like it fucking broke its ankle with that step. Like, you know something is wrong when the entirety of the Pokemon fandom is hyped because in one area of the game you can like kind of move the camera around freely.
Venturing through this area, you have control over the camera, allowing you to better search for items and Pokemon.
This is crazy!
Tall grass, in the skies above.
We've never had this before!
This game came out in 2019, everybody. So for one, the wild area is really just a big square chunk of grassland. And when there are variations, like maybe you'll get some dustier area here or a water area here, it's just kind of abrupt. And it's not helped by the fact that the wild area has the most bipolar weather I've ever seen. Literally every 3 steps, it's hailing, it's snowing, and then it's raining. And trust me, I know bipolar weather. I fucking live in Arizona. Is it cool that the Pokemon are actually out and about and they're all different levels and they're just, just in the wild? Yes, of course it is. That's what we've been wanting for so long now. But I wish they didn't just fucking instant transmission in and out of fucking existence. Also, the Pokemon aren't like doing anything. They just kind of like walk around or float around. It's so boring. It doesn't feel like a real Pokemon world. It feels like a video game. I would love to see more interaction between the Pokemon and really see how they behave in the real environment. Like, imagine you look up on one of these Nintendo 64 trees and you see a nest of Pidgey getting fed by a Pidgeot. Or maybe you enter a forest and you see a swarm of Beedrill working on their honey, and then out of nowhere they start attacking you. We hear that Duraludon, I don't know if I'm saying that shit right, fuck me, and Tyranitar are mortal enemies. So why is it they don't, I don't know, like, why don't we see them battling each other and having this rivalry that we're reading in the lore about? All we see is them just fucking walking around like fucking derpy doofuses. Instead of a fully fleshed out world of Pokemon, we just have untapped potential. And there's nothing to do in the wild area besides catch Pokemon. And again, they trick you. I remember first entering and seeing this giant tower, and I was like, ooh, I can't wait to go there and see what's inside and interact with it. Maybe I'll battle some trainers or find out more about the lore. But no, it's literally just, it's set dressing. It's a statue. You can't go inside it at all. The region just feels rushed. The towns, they look great but are hollow with no culture or lore. The routes are mostly boring to look at and just are usually straight lines. There's not even a Victory Road. Even Gen 6 and 7 got this right at least, but not here. Victory Road is just this regular route that's just basically just a straight line up. I know this team of developers can make a great region because they've done it multiple times. It could be the team not fully figuring out how to work things with 3D or even their time management. Maybe they waste too much time trying to make things look good in 3D and not enough time fleshing out the things that I think Pokemon fans actually want from these games. There's these two quotes that I think perfectly summarize what has happened to the regions of these games. You've probably seen them. One of them is about Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where all they cared about was putting as much content as they possibly could into this game, while the other is skipping out on it because people don't want it. They got mobile games. They don't want to play your Pokemon game for that long. And honestly, looking to the future of Pokemon games, I do still have a shred of hope, especially with Pokemon Arceus coming out. I like the fact that they're going back to a region they've already done and is a great region, being the Sinnoh region. Sinnoh already has so much lore and culture, so I hope that them going back to the origins of that region can give us a new, fleshed out and big feeling adventure again, with hopefully towns that aren't just pretty to look at but are hollow husks but are actually full of content and culture and lore, and with routes and caves with unique aesthetics and complex level design, and hopefully a more fleshed out open Pokemon world. Thank you so much for fucking watching. I want to give you all such a big hug and smooch because holy shit, the support that you've given me for this channel is ridiculous. I'll probably get more into it when I actually make the, sub goal video, and I know I was supposed to make one for 500 subs, but it kind of feels ridiculous to make a 500 sub goal video when we're about to hit fucking 1,000. Thank you so much. Instead, I'm gonna skip out on the 500 sub video, and like I said, for these sub goal videos, I want to make more personal type stuff for those, so maybe in about 2 or 3 videos, expect the 1,000 sub goal video. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and most of all, thank you so much for coming to this little pit stop on the corner of the internet. Peace.